All right. Well, I don't know if that happened on your screen or not, but it stopped at 15. I'm all like, are we
No.
there or what not?
Mine was
But
still moving, so I think we're okay.
so it's just me. What a
Yep.
great way to start the 30 plus 2 podcast. It's here and it's 6:30. Stephen Christoph here with Gate Drop Productions and with Gravy, which we need to get a little info on who the heck you are because we've already done 2 episodes. We're in the three. We have no idea who anyone is besides me. But I
Right.
mean,
Everybody knows you.
I think at this point they do. Hopefully, that's all a good thing. So,
Right, let's hope that, right? But no, I
but
think, yeah, you've got yourself quite a following here, and some people here hopefully know who I am.
yeah, so let's start off with something different. Let's do kind of like the Whiskey Throttle Show with some quick little banter here.
Yeah.
Um, Rain is still in the forecast. So we got the classic winter racing going on still with Woodland this weekend, as well as Eugene MX Park. Horn Rapids has practice going on. Make sure you check their social media before you go to make sure that they are running. They have multiple tracks to choose from, but always call ahead. And even with Woodland and Eugene as well, check their social media before you pack up and go because you never know what changes are going to happen. Grayson, have you ever shown up to a track and you forgot to check their social media and you're like, why are they closed?
Actually, no, personally not. I make sure I check. I check periodically. That'd be like the worst start to your day to getting all stoked to ride and get there and the gates are closed. I've heard stories people doing it though multiple times, pulling up at Washougal or Woodland, and which they're like, oh yeah, we're not riding today.
Right. And you're just all like, what do you do with the rest of
Right.
your day? I mean, you
Yep.
you loaded your entire truck up or trailer up with all your stuff. Like, do you just try to go find like a secret riding location? I don't know if
Just
you can get away with that in 2024 versus like the 70s where you could just go ride like wherever you
right.
wanted to.
Yeah, not as much, and I feel like a lot of the guys who are going to a track ain't gonna be like, "Oh, let's go to Tillamook Forest, let's drive another 3 hours wherever." It's you basically just gotta go home and hit restart on your day and, you know, or
Yeah.
just work
So
on your bike the rest of the day or something, just you can't waste it.
it's good practice to load and
Yep.
unload the bike.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good
Well,
workout sometimes depending on how many you have.
yeah. Well, we are in the 6:34 time bracket now. A little quick, just kind of who are you, Grayson? How'd you get into moto and whatnot before we jump into San Diego Supercross and banter for another 30 plus minutes?
Right, right. I've been in the Northwest my entire life. My dad raced pro in the 70s, early 80s, and when I just grew up in it, going around to Washougal and stuff like that. My grandpa helped out at a track that was in McMinnville, and called Mulkey's. Now it's a RV park actually, but my family's kind of been in it for a while. Started riding when I was probably four-ish, five-ish, and never really did anything with it. And my mom was a photographer in the area. She shot photos of friends, families, and at the track when my dad would be there. So I just kind of gradually gravitated towards the media and photo sides of things because I never really found the talent or the speed to actually make anything with a dirt bike for a while. So, but anything I could do to keep around it, I've been all around the Northwest, a little bit of Northern California. Um, but yeah, I've been around for a while. Know a lot of people. Disappeared for a bit. Had to work a full time job to be
Yeah.
an adult for a few minutes, but then probably just before, I don't know, 2020, about 2018 or so, 2017, I kind of just said, you know what? I need this back. I need to do this a lot more. I need to get back out there. And it was kind of weird coming back when everybody I used to actually ride with every single weekend, they're off doing their own thing and having families now. And you're making a whole new family at the track now again with all these new faces I've met over the last few years, especially.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy how fast time flies cuz just like
Yep.
you With me, like my dad started in the 70s down in Carlsbad, California, rode a bunch of those classic tracks where the foundation of like motocross and whatnot started down in California. He moved up here into Oregon and did a whole bunch of racing as well. And then just like our sport typically does, passing it on to the next
Yep.
generation. Got into moto just like you, and curiosity, I wonder how many times you and I cross paths behind the starting gate
Right.
versus now, behind the camera. Because fun fact, our guest last weekend, Jimmy Marquez, we actually crossed paths multiple times.
Mhm.
One in the 50cc class without even realizing it at all in 2000. And then we met up again in 2013 when I tore my ACL meniscus at PIR. He happened to be lined up next to me again. I don't know if that's good juju or bad juju. And we continue to be friends and whatnot to this day, where he helps out with the Gate Drop Showdown and a whole bunch of other things, including, as he mentioned last weekend, at Supercross for San Francisco, which he helped again in San Diego. Is it fair to say that Jimmy's the reason the rain keeps going? Because he didn't work Anaheim 1, and then he worked
It very well could be.
and then San Diego, and it happens to be 2 for 2 for rain. So, Jimmy, are you going to A2? Because if you are, I don't know, man. I think you're the rain god. I'm just
I
kidding
think it
with
is. It just follows him. You know what I mean?
Watch,
I
he'll
feel
show
like
up at
because he's gone
Woodland. It'll be
right. I
rainy
feel like
too.
he's gone to Seattle a couple times now too, and worked for him, and it was raining then as well. So he's got a pretty good track history with the rain following him. So hopefully he's not going to A2, so we could get some
Get a dry
actual
track.
decent racing. Yeah.
Well, we'll find out if he goes. I think he's going back for a couple other ones. One of them happens to be a dome. If the sprinklers go
Yep.
off, we're just gonna settle and
Right.
say
Right.
Jimmy's the reason for moisture in the
The
sky.
water truck broke on the Star Strait or something.
We like to banter, give our friends a hard time. All right. Jumping into racing. Should we start just like the program and start with the 250 recap
So
first and then head on into the 450s?
sounds good to me. We could start there.
All right. Well, rain again, just like we mentioned for San Diego, but this time it looked like Dirtworks, and then the amount of rain the Southern California area got, the track did do better this time,
Oh yeah.
and everyone was jumping the majority of jumps. I mean,
Hmm.
heck, you even had a practice session that was fairly dry, which trying to forget which Kawasaki rider that was that pogo sticked himself really like literally off the
Oh.
track. I
Hmm.
don't know if you
Yeah.
recall watching that.
I
That
don't
was
remember who
pretty.
it was. I saw a couple clips of that one. That was pretty gnarly.
It looked like he knocked himself out midair and then like came
Hmm.
to. Like he went stiff as a board and then landed and was all like, "Where am
Right.
I?"
Right. Yeah, I
But
didn't
the
get to
rain.
watch too much of the race day live, unfortunately.
Well, you know me, I'm a nerd, so I
Right.
just watch like all day Saturday when I'm not at the track. So a little
Yep.
different this coming weekend because racing does resume finally here in the Northwest. So I will be missing race day live. So you're gonna have to
Right.
be our race day live reporter here.
All right. I'll have to take over this weekend. I'll jump
Yeah,
in on
or
that one.
I don't know, burn the midnight candle because you know how important
Right.
our podcast is.
Right. I know all of our viewers really count on us to give
All of
them
our 7
an
viewers.
yeah, all seven and maybe eight. All, give them an accurate, recap and opinions of these professional riders.
Yeah. Well, Moto Memes, we give him a bunch of free publicity here.
Yep.
Another box is checked off. The red flag box is checked off. Do you want
Yep.
to take the lead on what you saw during the first heat race there, Grayson?
The first heat race, I was hoping things were gonna get, the track was gonna clear up, and it did over the night. But like those first couple heat races, they were a little sloppy. We kind of had almost a, look back at San Francisco with, how much people were flying off the tracks. That was it got pretty crazy. It was actually really exciting to watch. And like I don't like watching mud races generally, but this one, like there was a lot of chaos, like fairly, not anybody's going to get hurt chaos, but like nobody could hold a line. People were flying off tracks left and right. But yeah, luckily the track shaped up through the night though. And we actually got some decent racing out of some of these guys.
Yeah. That red flag, which was a crazy thing, you could hear from the audience because, being at home, you and I watching, we didn't get a front row seat of what was going on. They eventually cut to it, and it looked like one of those classic freeway pileups where you can't really get on the brakes and you keep smashing into each other. And unfortunately, our local rider, Braden Spangle, was the victim. And that, as well as Billy Lananovich and Kalbush. I did talk to Braden earlier, and he said he came over the jump, saw some bikes, and then he woke up on the ground. So
yeah, it didn't look like they still had the green flag out almost the majority of the time. If you go back and rewatch it, the green flag was out like the entire time that, the first 3 guys went down, and it was just I don't know what was going on. They just weren't looking that direction or what was going on. The spotter was a little off that day, but I feel like it could have been a little bit prevented if that flagger was a little bit more attentive what's going on. And then I think we could have possibly salvaged Spangle a little bit,
Yeah. I mean, it happened so quick, and good thing for Braden, he is going to be back for A2. He just had to sit out for the night because I believe it is protocol for if you get carted off, you're not allowed to go back for the rest of the night because it's that much of an injury. Yeah, so
the concussion stuff, it's no joke. And I've heard a lot about how the Alpine Stars guys, they don't play with that either. They take that very seriously. And it's intensive, I guess, through the entire week that they're on that concussion protocol.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear, though, that he'll be back for Anaheim, too, because he has been putting in the work. He did Futures last year, and so far, he hasn't been able to really show, like, as much as he can because of the mud, but he's done plenty of mud races in the Northwest, so shout out to Spangle. Get well soon, and we'll see you back, and I think if he's 100% like he says he is, I mean, he just needs to qualify into that top 18 or do the LCQ and get into the 22 because it is Triple Crown format next weekend. So that will be the true testament to see how he's feeling during qualifying so he can get in there for the night show.
Right. Let's hope he is, because those LCQs, especially before the Triple Crowns, I feel like are even crazier than a normal LCQ.
Yeah.
But hopefully he can pull through it. He's been riding strong. I've been keeping an eye on him and keeping tabs on him too. He's a good dude. He's going to get there eventually. He'll make some mains, I think, here real soon.
Right. Jason has a quick question. What does the green flag mean? He seems to be a little new to racing and whatnot. So just like NASCAR or any typical racing, green flag is all go for the race, which sometimes it might be thrown out a little too soon, saying, hey, the race is good. And then the red flag obviously means stops, just like a typical street light in a way. Yellow flag is caution, saying, hey, something's going on. Be on the lookout. And that's kind of your thing behind flags. Maybe we'll do a tutorial later on.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I've flagged many races my life, and I am very very passionate. Maybe we'll get into that one of these days. I get a little heated over them flaggers.
Flagging 101.
Yeah.
Well, after that pile up, obviously it got restarted, and I hate to call this the Levi Kitchen show, but I mean, you can't talk about the 250 class without talking about Levi. He apparently was under the weather, according to reports from them. It didn't look like it, but that's also just him being super strong and fit.
Right.
He grabs the heat race in heat number 1, and then Marchbanks, I mean, he got third last weekend at San Francisco. Is he just a mud rider because Club MX is training in the mud and whatnot? Or do you think with Marchbanks getting that second heat win, and then we'll get into the main event, like, is Marchbanks for real, Grayson?
I genuinely think he is. He can ride it all. He's proven before. He's one of the top guys. I think, being able to ride in the mud, though, too, is a skill this weekend's track I felt like was a little different because it was very muddy, but also it cleared up enough to where you could actually race the track when it came to the main event. So like I think Marchbanks is for real. This is just the beginning. I'm hoping really good things for him and that Club MX team. They put in a lot of work. If you've ever watched their YouTube series and stuff like that, and they put in so much work to build a really good like second tier team to a factory bike, and I feel like eventually they might even jump up to like that star Yamaha level at some point with what they've got going. So Marchbanks is real. This isn't just a fluke because of the mud.
Yeah. Looks like Instagram was a little late on the intro there. It's going on there now, so no biggie. Luckily,
they're behind a little.
Facebook. Yeah, luckily we still have Facebook Live as well as our YouTube channel. So if you're just joining us on Instagram, sorry about that delay, but we got you going now. Going into the main event, great start once again. Kitchen's right up there with Hampshire. Levi was looking great. He was one of like only a few riders that I could tell. Marchbanks was busting out that triple behind the mechanics area, and so was Kitchen. To me, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not. Looking at RJ Hampshire, it looked like he was riding very conservative that entire race until the very end, which we'll get into. What do you think about RJ's riding? Was he playing it safe?
I think he was. I think he's just like anybody else was trying to do, is really just get through this round with some decent points, because they've got half the amount of races as the 450 class to do what they need to do, and one bad race can really honestly ruin it, especially two. So RJ, I think, needed to play it safe, and I think that's exactly what he did until that last little incident at the end.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about that? Because it looked like RJ on the final lap, he saw like Marchbanks there as well as Thrasher, and it looked like he went all squirrel mode like he usually does and tried to
He got excited. He got very excited because he was like, oh, wait, I'm close. He probably didn't realize how close he was until probably right about then. And I think that playing conservative was smart to, do that to actually catch up to these guys, which was really good because they were still pretty squirrely, these leaders, making mistakes here and there. But yeah, I think he got really excited and, pushed himself a little further than he should have. He should have just settled in.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the riders in front of him. I mean, it was Marchbanks and Thrasher, and they're technically, which they are still, no duh, they're behind him in points. So he still would have packed a good points lead and probably would have taken the red plate back. But that incident caused Kitchen and Smith and Shimoda to get by, and those points that he was going to have just evaporated right in thin air. The moment of the race that I felt, well, there's two moments. Kitchen was right there, went outside, and it looked like he just lost traction there just because of the mud. I felt like that was the first like big like moment, because I really felt like that was Levi's night to take over the red plate and everything. And man, I know in a muddy situation, just like at Albany, crashing on the face of a jump, what a pain in the butt to get back up. That must have been super hard. What do you think about that crash that happened?
Yeah, it's terrible to get like wreck on the face of a muddy jump. You just got to pretty much slide back down, and there's no standing up until you get down to the flat. So that was unfortunate, but mistakes are going to happen like that, and everybody says, "Oh, well, he's from the Northwest. He should be able to ride through this no problem." Not all of us Northwest riders like riding in the rain. So we just don't. Like, I don't. I especially don't nowadays. But like,
you and I are fair weather riders.
Oh yeah. I love when we had arena cross and we never had to wash our bikes. We'd go out for 3 or 4 weekends and you wouldn't have to wash it. But no, that was unfortunate. But he made up enough time where to still be consistent and stay in the hunt for this weekend too.
Yeah, he bounced back, and I swear, if there was like 2 or 3 more laps, like he was right on Shimoda, and who knows what could have happened there. But checker flag went out, and that was the event. Lappers, you and I we haven't really dealt with lappers really, because in the Northwest as well as other races, I mean, it's hard for us to get lappers because of 4-lap races and whatnot. It does happen sometimes, like maybe you'll catch like the back end of the first gate and whatnot, and that could be your lapper. But
Most of the time,
especially
I'm the
with,
one getting lapped nowadays, especially when they drop the A gate with the C and D riders.
yeah, that gets sketchy. But I feel like that is kind of the topic of the night because it did affect both the
A
250
lot.
and 450 class. With it being muddy, it looked like there was only 2 lines to choose from. I think Marchbanks went and punched like maybe some stuff over in the pits like after the race because he had that under control. Thrasher gets right past him because
Yep.
unfortunately the lapper just happened to be in the main line. And literally, if you watch, Marchbanks like tapped the rear tire of the lapper, and the lapper's like, ah, my bad, bro. But
Right.
too little, too late. Thrasher gets the easy pass. Do you agree lappers were kind of the main topic of the race for both 250 and 450?
They were probably the biggest obstacle on the track other than the track itself because they just weren't, they weren't aware as much because the track was so, crazy. They could only, pay attention to the line that they're in and not much what's around them. They got to focus on how the changing track every single lap too. So a lot of the guys probably didn't even notice the blue flag coming up on them, especially when they're running, you know, 12th and higher. They're not thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna get lapped. No, that generally doesn't happen. Like with Sexton getting lapped and whatnot, like that just doesn't happen. So
Yeah.
I feel like the lappers really, it was an issue this weekend. Hopefully with the dry racetrack we won't see that as much anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty nuts to have both classes lap up into the top 7. I mean, they were pretty, it almost reminded me of the one time that Carmichael literally lapped the entire field at Millville in
Yep.
06, I believe,
Yep.
because they were just going after it and everyone was just trying to survive the night, which luckily, I mean, besides Spangle, I don't know if Linovich got hurt or not. It looked like everyone went away fairly safe for San
I
Diego.
think Lano walked away. I've seen a couple posts of him around the pits afterwards. He didn't look banged up. I haven't seen anything bad, so hopefully not. Because there was a part of me he was going to get in that main event. If it was a little bit nicer, he would have made the main event that night. I feel he was so close.
Well, I think even without that crash, like even Spangle was literally, he
Yep.
was up there in that qualifying session on that opening lap. And then I think there was a video he posted or something where he got tangled and it put him a little farther back, which then caused the chaos in the heat race where he was just wrong place, wrong time. I mean, Spangle was looking really good at an automatic transfer as well. Current point standings now as we wrap up. Do you have anything else in the 250 class that really caught your attention? Because I think that's kind of straightforward. That's kind of all that happened.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the biggest of the night was that big pile up. I feel at the first heat race, and then Hampshire just kind of crapping the bed a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that hurt him the most because Jordan Smith keeps the points lead, and no hate comms on Jordan. It's just it's been a long time since he's been in this position. So I really think our biggest kind of like proof in the pudding is if that's a term or not, is Anaheim 2. Is can Smith do this in a dry environment too? Because he's done it in the mud. He has the points lead with 67 points now. Levi recovered well to get back past his main competitor, in my opinion, RJ Hampshire, and he's only 8 points down from the points lead. So that's still, even with a crash and everything that happened, Levi's still in it. And then Marchbanks, after these 2 last races in the mud, he is only 2 points behind Levi, only 10 down. RJ a little farther back, 14 down. That seems to be, I don't like, how we were talking about Shimoda, which, man,
he's out. He's done.
Shimoda's just gonna, I think, just be there for wins at this point because the crashing really affected him this past weekend. The bike failure really, really hurt him, and you have to leapfrog literally 6 guys. Nothing against Anthony Burdon, but I mean, I don't know if Anthony's doing the entire series or not on the BarX Suzuki, which I
Mhm.
believe he is, but I mean, he is more on the privateer side. But Shimoda has to jump Oldenburg, Hampshire, Marshbank, Kitchen, and Smith to get into the points lead, and that is quite a hurdle.
I feel like going to be a lot way too big for him to accomplish with only what? How many rounds left now? We got 6 left or something like that for this one.
Yeah.
And like that's unless, obviously anything could happen. Bike malfunctions, it could very well take out a couple of the top guys and he could slowly move up, but I think his championship thoughts for this year or for Supercross are down. I think it might be already time to start switching focus to go after that outdoor title and be able to get into the SMX and maybe think about that now instead.
Yeah. I mean, luckily with the Super Motocross Championship, the separate points and whatnot, I mean, even at 36 points, he still has a chance at the end of the year with it being
Yep.
such a long series of 17 Supercrosses, 11 motocross races, and then the 3 playoffs. Like, he can still probably get it just like Deegan did last year. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Shimoda, he'll keep obviously he'll keep charging and whatnot,
Right.
but oh man, and I just think it's a very far reach at this very moment to try to get past all the riders we mentioned above.
Yeah, that's gonna be a little too big. He's gonna get up there. He's gonna be a contender for the year, the SMX title at the end of the year. But the regional Supercross, he's just gotta keep chugging along to try to get as many points as he can and get a little higher up to get into those playoff rounds.
Yeah. Jumping into 450 recap, Eli Tomac, he looks really good in Heat 1. He just pretty much controlled it from start to finish there, grabs the win, and then oh man, main event problems. Didn't really see if he stalled it or fell over, but I don't know. Is it too early to tell if he's back into full form from his injury, or is A2 going to be the ultimate decider, assuming we have a dry track again?
Right. I think if A2 comes around and it's dry, I think by the end of the night we'll know. I feel like we're pretty far in this enough finally to be able to see where people's minds are and how much work they've put in it and how strong they've gotten over this off season. And he's been off for a pretty long time compared to a lot of these other guys, but he's been rehabbing this injury and I'm sure it's going to always be a thought in the back of his head at some point, but I think by the end of this next Saturday night, I think we'll probably have a really good idea of where he's at, especially if it's dry. If we start getting another mud race or even a sloppy race a little bit, we're not really going to get the full idea. We need like pristine A1 track type of stuff for him to really show us what he's got and where he is.
Yeah. And, luckily, I mean, in a good way with these mud races, it's making our podcasting questions really good because we have no idea, just like all the other analysts that run, the races and whatnot, like Steve Mathis, Jason Wygant, Jason Thomas. Obviously, they've been in the sport longer. They go to the races. We're more on, we're really on the bottom level of
On the
analysts,
couch.
if you
On the
want to
couch.
say, literally on the couch.
Yep.
But hey, anyone can talk. I mean, Hopper
Right.
does it on YouTube, so anyone
Right.
can do it, right? Luckily,
And
we
it
have some knowledge.
and we're not coming in here, just talking crap about people. No,
No.
we love racing. There's some riders we don't like as much here and there, but we're not going to be out here trying to cause problems with people and things like that. I feel that's where I think where our opinion kind of matters a little bit is because we do have an idea of what racing is and all that kind of stuff, but we're not out here to bash anybody or cause any problems.
No, I've gotten over that stuff. Dungy retired, so we're good.
You're like, I'm off.
Dungy, we're good. Sexton, God, man, tough night. Heat race crashes, has to come back into a qualifying position. Main event crashes again. Has to
So are
come
we
back.
gonna bring up the incident and figure out
I mean,
what do we think?
I 15 minutes before our podcast, I rewatched it again. And if you watch, Sexton doesn't look over at Cooper at all and cross in front of him. So I believe, in my opinion, it's just a racing incident. He went outside to get out of the way. It looked like he anticipated Cooper Webb to, hey, get on the beans, buddy, and get past me so I can continue my race. And Cooper just didn't make it happen because he wasn't close enough to make that pass. So then Chase goes over the single onto what would have been a triple over.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, my bad. He goes outside, lets Cooper by after Cooper gives him, the Twitter finger and gets past them. But yeah, that definitely helped AP, which you're an AP hater.
Yeah, I wouldn't say hater. Just not a full believer. Okay.
You were a believer, but now you're a Bieber believer. And AP had the whole gap there, which it did help a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we're gonna transition, I'll let you do your thoughts first. What did you think of the incident there between Sexton and Webb?
I do think it was a racing incident, honestly. I watched it a couple times. I've watched replays on Instagram and stuff like that, and it was a racing incident. There was no intentional, but like, what a better time for an incident to happen, though, And then, like, I saw with AP's post, he was like, "Come on, Cooper, this is what I was trying to tell you about, shake and bake." Like, that's what It was kind of funny to see that, but I think it was a pure racing incident, and it was just a happy coincidence that it was his teammate, preventing Cooper from getting up there to him. So that was kind of cool.
Well, even with Eli Tomac getting lapped, which how many times do you say that?
Right. Like never. He was pushing to get unlapped, though. He was pushing.
Well, what's funny is I believe, in my opinion, if you listen to the podium, Aaron's like, yeah, Eli was on my butt and I didn't want him to get past me. I think Aaron may have thought Eli was in second and forgot that he lapped him, because to me, it looked like actually Eli was helping AP by keeping the momentum going by riding his rear fender. And Aaron's just like kind of running like a headless chicken, like, I got to be perfect because Eli's going to get me and take the win. Well, that wasn't the case at all.
No, and that Eli was just pushing. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's going to try to keep up with that person in front of him, and I think that really did help AP. It kind of lit a bit of a fire under him, be like, oh crap, I need to, either he forgot or he's like, damn, I don't want to let him back by me. I can't let that happen. That'd be weird.
Yeah. I mean, this, like I said, I think my opinion of just Aaron's process, which, I have to listen to the Pulp MX podcast here tomorrow because he is on there. Hopefully Steve or someone asked him that question, because that was pretty interesting, because he looked back, saw Eli there, get going even harder. And I was like, are you looking at Eli or are you looking at Cooper? And it looked like the blue flag did not it did not apply to Eli, because he really didn't care. He wasn't causing any problems, but it looked like it was funny. Like, he looked at the blue flag and said, yeah, that does not apply to me, sir.
No, that's how a lot of those, I feel like the factory guys are going to think. Obviously, they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm one of the top guys. Like, that doesn't apply to me. Maybe he thought he was lapping somebody too. Somebody else was getting the blue flag for Eli for him to lap somebody, because I bet everybody was getting lapped like crazy. So, but yeah, that was a weird sight to seeing him get lapped. But watching him push so hard, though, to get right there with AP the rest of that time was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. Even with that crash and whatnot, I mean, points wise, I'm going to skip ahead on my program just a little bit. Yeah. Eli made up significant points last weekend and then dropped back again. I don't believe he's out of it yet, but he's at 48 points with Aaron Plessinger, who now taking the points lead at 60. So we're talking 12 points. That's still doable for Supercross. And also, I mean, we're still, which we'll get in the topic with Jet Lawrence and all that went down there. I think a lot of people and fans are thinking with motocross and super motocross that Lawrence was going to be the 93 McGrath, quoting Steve Mathis. Yeah. Hasn't been that way since the opener. Do you feel Lawrence is going to rebound in A2 and smoke everyone? Or for our next topic, you think Anderson's going to send him into the cheap seats next weekend?
I don't think Anderson's going to push that far, really. I don't think he is. I think he'd rather just prove that he's faster. I think he's going to go out there and try and work Jet a little bit this next weekend. And no, I don't think Jet's going to be, coming out and just whooping everybody this next weekend. I think he's got some nerves now. He's got Anderson in his head. Like I feel like there was a load in his pants after that incident. And we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, no, I think he'll definitely be a top 5 runner, again next weekend, but I don't think he'll get punted anywhere. I think Anderson's a little smarter than that now. Maybe a few years back he probably would have done something like that, but I feel like some of these guys are finally getting older and a tad bit mature, and yeah, they might stuff you a little bit, but I don't think he's going to do anything that's going to risk another penalty or fine after this weekend too.
I thought the fine was a little ridiculous. Just let them fight it out. I mean, if you do look at other camera angles, Jet actually
instigated the whole thing.
Yeah,
he did.
And then Jason's all like, "Hey, buddy, you're a little boy."
Right. Well, if you watch the clip, Hunter rolls by Jet's older brother. You think instantly he'd be like, "Oh crap, I'm going to go back there," and Hunter's just shaking his head like, "Damn, he's going to learn real quick." And he did. I feel, and that the apology he posted, I feel is a little, I don't know, a little too much from his manager probably, or dad told him, "Hey, you need to apologize." But that whole thing was crazy.
Of all the honey badgers to not mess with, he picked one of them. You don't want to mess with Anderson. I say you don't want to mess with Webb either, because he'll give it to you. And then Justin Barcia, I think those are the 3 honey badgers you don't want to mess with on the track, because they will precisely give you a little dirt sample for a dessert.
Yep. Exactly.
Is there any other riders that will give it to you? I don't know. I'm trying to think of any.
Not anybody who's really running up front, I don't think. Some of these random privateers that pop up here and there, they like to throw some bows here and there, but they got to do it to even get to the main event. So they're not scared to throw some. But these top factory guys, I feel like Barcia, Anderson, and Webb are probably the 3 you don't really want to push around too much nowadays.
Yeah. Do you recall any other riders back in the day that were you don't want to mess with? I know Bradshaw gets thrown in.
Bradshaw.
Weston Peick all time.
Yeah. What is it? Chicken, Matasevich, and stuff like that. Him and Bradshaw and stuff like. Tyler Evans. He was his nickname was One Punch. Like you don't want to mess with somebody who's one punch and comes out in opening ceremonies and rips off his shirt and starts doing karate moves on his RM250, like
John Cena.
Yep. Denny Stevenson. There's a bunch of like quality riders who weren't afraid to get a little dirty when it needed to be. I feel like the field of throwing bows nowadays doesn't quite live up to the racing as it did in the 90s and early 2000s.
Well, I mean, there is one rider in the 2000s, the smiley assassin, Andrew Short. I haven't seen much footage, but everyone claims Short is like, happy-go-lucky, but he will take you down.
Let's say I personally haven't seen anything. Everything I've ever seen him, he's always like the nicest, straightforward kind of guy. And the couple times that I met him at autograph signings, it's just like you said, just a smiley mofo, just always so happy.
Well, I mean, with everything going back to the topic of Chase Sexton on how crazy of a night it is, he had a 7-point lead over everyone else, but he leaves San Diego. I think he'll take what happened there, being 1 point out of the points lead.
Right.
Was it just pure survival for Sexton and just be like, I just need to make up the points, get through it, and not get dead last?
Yep, I think it was just salvage as many points as he could, honestly, because after the win in San Francisco, he's in a still really solid position, especially for somebody on a brand new team and bike. And I think he's proven that he was ready for that switch.
Yeah. What we got left? Cooper Webb put himself, even with that second place, I feel like it really helped looking at the points right now. Plessinger was 60, Sexton 59, Lawrence 56, Anderson and Webb and Ferrandis all with 49. I feel like, just like Carmichael said at the beginning of the show, if Webb wants to get back into this series, he needs to do something. And, as much as Cooper loves winning and whatnot, I think second place is something to hang your hat on because he's right back in it. And I honestly would not be surprised if he takes the overall next weekend at A2.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's been fairly consistent every weekend so far. And, I don't think he's mad that he got a second, but obviously it's Cooper, and we all know he's got that winner mentality. So I'm sure a second is burning a little bit inside of him a little bit, but I think for like the same thing, new team, new bike again, starting all over kind of fresh and coming in this strong the first few rounds of the year, I think is pretty good and just shows that he's gonna be tough to beat the rest of the year, I think.
Yeah, and being 11 points down, I feel like that's nothing to fret about. Man,
No.
bummer for Ken Roxon. The
Right?
Kickstarter gets him again. And even though we're still early on and we're talking about points, he's got 42 points in eighth. It's not a far stretch, but I feel like it's a little bit different, in my opinion, for Kenny because he's going to have to click off some wins to really get back in there. I know 49 and 42 is not that huge of a difference, but like I said, we have plenty of riders that he has to chip through, which I think he looks more comfortable this year on the Suzuki. Do you have any
Oh,
opinions on his Suzuki performance this year compared to the early rounds last year?
I think definitely he's way more comfortable this year. He's had the chance finally a full year under his belt to test and tune that bike, which hasn't changed in what 5 years now, really. So the testing on that thing's got to be pretty darn good by now. And having somebody of his caliber finally on that Suzuki to prove like, hey, this is a quality bike. We've put a lot of work into this. He's is awesome for Suzuki, but he's definitely looking way more comfortable. I've been really excited to see him each race to see how well he's going to do, and he's always one of the front runners there until some kind of mistake usually pops up, So he's doing pretty good, and I think he'll get a couple of wins under his belt this year. So we just got to get out of this mud where he's got to throw the bike in neutral to start it nowadays, which is a thing of the past. That's what's been killing him, really, honestly. If he had that E start, he could have been right there, but we can't dwell on what Suzuki has and doesn't have.
Yeah. Well, are you still a non-believer or do you believe in AP now because he got it done? Are you eating your words?
He has 100% proven me wrong about my statement. I think it was from the first episode where I didn't think he was going to get another win or get a win this year.
And two races later.
And two later, I was like, well, I was wrong about that. But when we get to a dry track though, like, is he going to be able to keep up with these guys? Yeah, he can ride these technical, lines changing every, corner. He's a strong mud rider and he's proven that time and time again. And this was just one of those days where it was a mud track, but it wasn't to where, it was going to actually take him out. There was no real problems, I feel, for him. So he definitely shut my mouth for a little bit. I've nothing against the guy. Love AP as well. I love watching him. He's always fun to watch and he's an amazing rider, but he definitely proved me wrong. But now hopefully he can keep this momentum going with this confidence and go into A2 and get another podium. If not, hopefully maybe another win for him because I feel like he needs this. It's his time to really shine, I feel now after this.
Well, honestly, at this point for RM Fantasy, Rocky Mountain Fantasy League, I think you'd be a fool if you did not put him somewhere in the top 5. I mean, he's proven it every single race.
Yeah, I think what was it this week? I actually didn't have him in the top 5 this week, which was that's my bad. That's my bad. But I didn't think it was going to be as sloppy as it was. I wasn't really paying attention that morning, so I was like, oh, he'll stop around 7-8 somewhere around there. But definitely my RM fantasy this week was a complete mess as well. I just can't figure it out.
Yeah, I'm a loser.
I think my total at the moment now is I think 45 is where I'm sitting at points, which is pretty low. Even for somebody watching brand new, could probably do better than I'm doing.
Well, I started out really good at Anaheim 1 with 45 points. San Francisco, we got 20, and then I only did 2 points better. My picks for RM Fantasy was Ken Roxon was gonna be the winner, which we were looking really good. Sexton was second, didn't happen. Eli was running third, I think on the first lap, blew it. Webb was in fourth. Anderson was correct. I know I was texting you, and Dylan Ferrandis was in seventh. So I had one, almost three, but I had 1, 4, 5, and 7 correct, and it just hit the fan.
Yeah, I was sitting similar for a minute, there like when Jet blitzed the whoops, I was like, okay, wait, I might actually get something right here, and then of course next lap around it bites him. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a rough weekend, and I love saying it though, like my picks are always terrible, but I'm also sometimes very happy that what I picked is actually wrong because I feel like it makes the racing more exciting for me. I'm not like, oh, I can predict who's going to win this race. I literally have no idea every weekend, and I feel like that also makes it way more fun.
Yeah. And Mike Hammershock's got a question. When does Deegan race? That is the East Coast Series, which I believe is actually coming up pretty
I think
soon.
3 or 4. It's like 3 weeks, I think, something around there.
Yeah. I heard some hot rumors, but our factual resources like RacerX and other areas haven't said anything, but Deegan might be hurt. I don't know. Maybe it's a play. Uh
I haven't seen
that
anything. I haven't like you said the trustworthy places that you'd really find that information out. I haven't seen anything. Um,
yeah.
his Instagram stories and stuff don't seem to be like he's hurt. So unless it's something that's where he just can't ride right now, but I think he's still got plenty of time, even if he is hurt, depending on the severity of it.
I'm not saying I'm not a Deegan fan or a Deegan fan, but based on the roster and whatnot, I feel like it's gonna be 250 East. I'll just hard stamp it right now. 250 East championship. As long as everything goes to play, Deegan's your East champion.
I think so too.
Yeah.
He's got the skills, he's got the talent, he's got the team. There's not much else standing in his way right now. Whether you love him or you hate him, you got to admit he's one of the best riders we've had come into the 250 class in a while, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
Everybody else kind of has these slow starts. Volan's had kind of a slow uprise. Ryder D, obviously this is his first like full year of Supercross, but he had a slow rise in the Supercross and stuff like that. But Deegan has pretty much come out and been consistent since day one, which is you don't see that anymore.
Well, anything else to talk about in the 450 class? I feel like we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
We still don't know anything from any of the riders realistically.
No,
I don't know.
I think
Anything?
I think that's pretty much summed that one up for sure. Yeah, it's the we hit those key moments, AP winning, the incident, Sexton and Tomac being lapped. I feel like those are the biggest stories besides the Jet and Anderson incident.
I got one more question slash it's just an idea that popped in my head because with football you have like Mahomes, you have who the other guy is, Kelsey. Wow, we're off to a great start here. Like fan favorites and whatnot for motocross. I feel like AP and like even my Detroit Lions. Heyo. Like it's everyone's person slash team to cheer for. Like, do you have a favorite or have you thought of any comparison in past races on like riders that they not necessarily were multi-champions and whatnot, but like had the best attitude and fan base like Aaron Plessinger? Because it looked like everyone in the stands and probably on TV was just hyped for AP
Right.
because of his personality. Anyone you can think of in the past that had that same kind of personality or a personality that everyone gravitated to?
I can think of two pretty good, I feel like fan favorites. They pretty much the same era. Tim Ferry, Kevin Windham. You know, they never really were able to click off the big wins, the championships, besides their 250 or 125 careers, I should say at that point.
Yeah.
But I feel like everybody would the stadium would blow up if Tim Ferry would get a win, or or Kevin Windham would get the win. I feel like those two guys you just always wanted to see do really well, and you had a feeling that okay, they're going to be a top three guy, but they're never going to click off that win, or it's going to be very few and far between. But you cheered your heart out for them every time they went by you, especially if you're like a Supercross or at Washougal or something. Like those two guys, you always wanted to see do amazing things. Just super nice guys, down to earth. I feel too the couple times like I've ran into them at Washougal here and there. So, but yeah, I feel like those two really stick out to me. Do you have anything that pops into your head, or anybody else that besides those guys?
I mean, you have your classics, and for those younger, but luckily he still is relevant in today's age, and the kids have to go back. Like
Mhm.
Pastrana has always been like
Yes.
the top one. He'll sign everything and even wait and still autograph and win, like, times
Mhm.
closed and whatnot. So Pastrana comes to mind for me. And then, yeah, Wyndham, uh, nothing against Ferry. It's just I didn't notice him as much. But yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, everyone's got a rider of their own that, has their
Yep.
own personality on and off the track. And I think Adam Entenap as well, like
Yep.
being a good one the last couple of years, like with his personality. I think we're in this age now where not everyone has to win multiple championships,
Mhm.
but like if you have a rider like AP, you can sell some KTM's and Red Bull and whatnot with that personality because it's a positive influence and it just gets the people going.
Yep. No, I think that's good. I think it's always good to have those people that you can really connect with. They don't need to be the next star. It's about selling who they are and what they're writing, basically. It's not always about the James Stewart who can go out there and be the world's fastest guy on a dirt bike. You couldn't walk up to James and have like I feel like a normal conversation like you could with a lot of these.
Yeah, like other current ones I can think of at this very moment, like with Pulp MX and the fan base, whatnot. Phil Nicoletti is always a
Yep.
fun one. He's just like the angry, grumpy cat, but
Yep.
he's actually like that's just kind of a play of his.
Mhm.
And I just spaced the other one, Adam Cincerello.
Yeah.
AC's really changed over the years. I'll be honest, I was not really the biggest fan of Cincerello when he came in,
Mhm.
and he's really grown up just kind of like, a lot of the other riders and has this big base. And Dean Wilson's even opened up more. And I constantly get replies and whatnot from Dino on Instagram, which, I get a little fangirlish, like, oh my God, a pro responded to me.
Right.
But
Right.
that's just something cool with our
Mhm.
sport versus, and now I don't know because I've never like messaged LeBron James or whatnot, but I
Right.
highly doubt LeBron's sending messages back to his fans versus our pro riders. So that's something unique and cool
Yep.
about our sport with the amount of personalities
You,
that there is.
that's what I like about it too. You can get up close with these guys that you look up to, especially if you live in like the Southern California area. Like they're going to be at Glen Helen, they're going to be, at Fox Raceway. You can run into them pretty much anywhere just riding. It's like when we'd be here at Albany and Josh Hill would show up every once in a while, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, Josh Hill," and it's like, wait,
Right.
he's just a normal dude who's coming to ride one of his tracks he grew up at and stuff like that. So it's just really cool. Like a couple weeks ago, I had Jeremy McGrath like my story that I posted of like one of his kits or something like that, and the little 10, 11-year-old in me got really freaking excited. But I'm like, wait, he's just a normal dude. He's maybe getting a few tags and stories and posts here and there nowadays, but like I think it's still pretty cool that how close we can actually get up to these riders and have a connection with them compared to other sports and other celebrities.
Right. Well, the best connection right now in our Northwest, Jordan Veal got some connections with MC. So we'll have to get
Right.
Jordan Veal on here at some point, JVL photo. And then also start talking about other stuff other than racing, because we only have 4 viewers for
Right.
Supercross. So I guess the formula is really not working there. I don't know. Talk about the more Northwest stuff.
Yep.
To conclude this episode, unless you have anything else more to talk about, Gravy.
No, I think that pretty much sums it up for this week, and hopefully we get some nicer weather here soon, so we can actually make it out to some racetracks and hang out with people and have more conversations than just Supercross. See, like you said, you're going to try to hit up Woodland and Eugene this weekend, which hopefully we can make that happen for you and get some nice media out there for everybody again, and then you can come back with some stories maybe.
Yeah, definitely. This weekend, which we do with all of our podcasts and try our best to promote everything. Um, before we get into it, Jeremy's got one more viewer question. When you're not racing, Grayson, what do you like to do? That's what Jeremy, our main flagger in the PNW,
Okay.
wants to know.
When I'm not at a track, generally most of the time I'm at home with my girlfriend, hanging out with our cats, playing a little video games. I'm an avid WWE fan as well, which most people probably don't even know about me unless you're kind of close. So I'll sit and play some WWE video games or watch some old episodes of Monday Night Raw and stuff like that. I'm kind of a homebody, so the older I've gotten, the more I've just enjoyed being able to hang out at home. But back in the day, it was a bunch of skateboarding, BMX. I still dabble a little bit here and there, but for the majority of it, I'm pretty much a homebody if I'm not at a racetrack.
I feel like you're gonna hate me when I finally figure out the restream and just cut in just trolling moments on
Yeah.
you of like John Cena and whatnot. So
Oh, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. As you can see, there's action figures behind me here. Like it's for real.
nerd, as I have toy dirt bikes behind me.
Right. Right.
That's all right. Going on this weekend in the Pacific Northwest, you have Woodland MX Racing, both regular racing, I believe. I'm sorry that I didn't look it up. My
Wow.
bad. But
Wow.
racing
Slacking here.
both Saturday and Sunday, I believe it is just regular racing. That's why I'm going. Saturday and Sunday racing, rain or shine. You know how Woodland rolls. You're gonna get muddy one way or another. Riverdale, which is Tootle Motorsports Park. Make sure you call before you go or check their Instagram and social medias. I believe they're still with their open practice. Just checked in with Devin earlier at Horn Rapids. He has practice going on at Horn Rapids Motorcycle Complex, which the Black Widow series is coming up quick in February on the 17th and 18th. So make sure to check out hornrapidsmx.com for all your Tri-Cities racing and whatnot in Eastern Washington. And then Eugene MX has their winter race on Sunday. I'll be at both of those. Grayson, I guess you're just going to sit home and be the reporter for everyone. I don't know. What are you doing this weekend?
For sure, Saturday. I'm going to be the at-home correspondent, watching some race day live. Sending you a bunch of messages that you can get when you're about halfway down I-5. They'll start banging on your phone, and you'll be kind of caught up by the time you make it down to Eugene. But no, I just plan on being at home, watching some racing. Now that possible Eugene, that is a possibility. I might have to make my way down there if I can find some gas money.
Well, I mean, you can always throw your Venmo out here or
Right,
Patreon.
right. At Gravy, or wait, no, I'm not sure. We'll get that.
He doesn't even know.
I don't even know that. It's been a while since I've had anybody pay me anything.
Well, I mean, if you want to help me out for the Gate Drop Showdown, September 13th through 15th, yes, I can do my own ads because it's my own event. I'll definitely need some media people to help me out so we can discuss off the air what your price range is and get going with that. And shout out to Legacy Racewear, lead sponsor renewing with the Gate Drop Showdown. Make sure to check out Legacy Racewear for all your Northwest gear needs. Aaron Davis runs a cool program, and his son Ty is Preston Baseflug's mechanic, which Preston's going to make his East Coast
debut.
Thank you. I have no words.
That one definitely. I'm pretty bummed that he's doing that East Coast. I was really looking forward to seeing some West Coast rounds with him, but I think he's going to do pretty well.
Yeah. Steve says, what classes do y'all ride? Do we even talk about those classes before we
I don't know if we're gonna want to go there. I don't know if it's anything to be ashamed of or not, but
I ride 30 plus.
yeah, we'll leave it at that. 30 plus. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
Right.
Yeah, we're in our 30s. Wow, how sad that is to wrap
It
up
is.
on the podcast for episode 3.
Great way to end it. Yeah, I'm gonna go and cry myself to sleep now.
All right. For anyone that wants to follow you on Instagram, what is your Instagram?
It is Gravy648 on Instagram. Gravy Photography is my Facebook page where you will check out all the posts that I make from the photos that I take at each race. Will be posted there. But yeah, mainly my Instagram is where you're going to catch anything from me.
All right. And then yours truly, if you want to follow Gate Drop Productions, make sure to click like on Facebook at GateDrop_pro on Instagram and GateDropProductions.com for any of your needs. That's a wrap. And Steve O. Henderson says, come do a podcast at Pastrana Land.
Hey,
I mean,
fly me there, get me there.
Yeah, if you can get us there, I mean, I'll definitely spend time with Pastrana. Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to say no here.
He's the reason I've got the bike that I've got today, that 01 RM 125. So ship me up over there with my bike, and I'll flip the foam pit for you.
Yeah. And at the end, Eric Longtail says poodle nuts. So nice. That's a wrap for the
All right.
Let's do podcast. We will see you guys next Monday at 6:30. Thanks for watching.